and welcome back to the Student Midwife Notes podcast. Today's special guest is no one. It's just me by myself. I don't know what order I'm going to upload these podcasts in, but I think this is going to be episode 2 because I'm going to upload the one with Jess first because it kind of makes sense because Sheila did A-levels, I did A-levels, and then I took a little bit of a detour before I got to midwifery. So we'll start with Jess, who spoke positively about A-levels, and then we can talk about my experience today, if that's all right with you, I guess. But you don't actually have a choice. It feels really weird to be recording this podcast by myself. Although I'm used to making YouTube videos by myself, recording a podcast feels a little bit weird and different because I'm having a conversation and not being able to bounce off anyone. But yeah, anyway, a bit about me. As I already mentioned, I have a YouTube channel and a Instagram page under the name Student Midwife Notes. So yeah, I'm Lucy and I'm a third year student midwife and I'm just about to finish my degree. So I'm making a podcast to fill my time because I like to be busy all the time and I couldn't imagine not speaking about student life or to students. So if you didn't know before, I've created this podcast to support students through their midwifery education, and that's what I'm going to try and transfer my Instagram account into once I'm already a newly qualified midwife. So watch out for everything that I'm going to put out. And while you're here, subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram, follow the podcast and like the podcast and all the different apps which you may use just to keep up to date with me and see when I start bringing out new stuff and just generally chatting about midwifery if that's what you're interested in. So yeah, that's me. And as I briefly mentioned at the start, I did study A-levels before I came to midwifery. I did take A-levels, but I didn't do very well in them. So we'll just start initially with the question which I'm planning to ask everyone who comes onto my podcast at the very start. So what was it that made me want to pursue midwifery as a career? Initially, I had no idea what I was doing for many, many years. I was in sixth form doing A-levels just because I liked the subjects and I had no idea what I was going to do with them until literally, I think it was the summer before year 13, so my final year of sixth form. And I actually saw a midwife on the TV. It was a BBC programme about women's birth experiences and choices. And there was like one woman who was having a home birth, one was having an elective cesarean, one woman was going to eat her placenta, another woman was having a free birth, and there was a midwife on there. And she was a supervisor of midwives, which is now the PMA. And she'd gone round to the boat of the woman who was free birthing because she lived on a boat. Just to talk to her about like the safety of her birth choice. And now I look back on it, I'm like, oh, is that a little bit odd? I don't know how I feel about it now. But she was talking to her about like all of the different things which the midwives can do to support her, even though she wants to have a free birth, and how they'll be there for her if something went wrong and all that sort of stuff. And then I just sort of looked into midwifery as a career and I was like, yeah, that's really interesting. Previously I'd considered doing nursing, but I wasn't really drawn to that properly. It was never really for me. But then I went to a couple university open days for midwifery and I was like, yeah, this sounds like it's for me. You know, it mixes the sciences, which I loved, as well as like personal interaction and caring and, you know, really applying your work physically and just like being about and doing something a bit more practical. That's all the sort of stuff I loved. So midwifery really, I feel like it's the perfect fit for me. I can't actually imagine myself ever doing anything else. But we'll backtrack like a year or so to when I was picking my A-levels. I literally just picked subjects which I liked and which I was good at. Science, I was always the best at. That was my favourite subject. So I just picked a couple sciences. I did biology and physics. I did not want to do chemistry. Hate chemistry. I want to put that on the record. I hate you, chemistry. And I did physics as well because I really liked it in GCSE, but that was a scam. That was actually a scam. A-level physics is a joke. It's very, very hard. I don't recommend unless you're a genius. Geography also was used to be my favourite lesson in GCSE and A-level. I had such a nice class, an incredible teacher. If you ever get to hear this, Miss Bradley, shout out, you were the best. Yeah, my geography class was jokes and I absolutely loved it. And then I also did maths, but I dropped that after AS because just like physics, that's a joke, that's really hard, that's for people who are geniuses, not for me, would not recommend. So yeah, I finished my A-levels and ended up coming out with EDC. I got an E in physics, a D in biology and a C in geography. And to be honest, that's probably because it's definitely because I didn't revise. I definitely could have done better, but I was more interested in like the social aspect of sixth form, and like I did loads of volunteering, which apparently I cared more about than my actual grades. But I had a great time in sixth form, but I didn't come out with very good grades. But I wouldn't change it for the world, because all of the extracurricular stuff was what really helped me with my application to midwifery. So as soon as I got the grades which I needed, I was getting onto midwifery and it wasn't really an issue. I never had a problem with my personal statement or interview. It was just getting to that point with my grades, basically. My school initially were really, really helpful with getting me a good personal statement and my UCAS application. Obviously, they sort of believed in me. My school knew that I was really confident, and I feel like they knew that I was the type of person who could, do midwifery if I really tried my hardest and put my effort into getting my good personal statement. And I did a lot of extracurriculars, so that did support my statement, and they were really helpful. I also bought Ellie Durant's book to write my personal statement with. I would actually really recommend buying that book. It really, really helped me. It set the whole structure for my personal statement, and obviously I wrote 2 personal statements because I failed my A-levels, so I applied twice, but we'll get to that bit in a second. But we'll start with the extracurriculars actually. So I'd been a volunteering my whole life, really. I grew up in the church, so if you're someone who's also grown up in the church, you'll know there's always volunteering opportunities and they really encourage you to get involved. And I have volunteered with my mum for many, many years with the kids at the church on the Sunday school, just looking after the kids and doing games and stuff, which just, I think, showed like a level of responsibility and commitment. When I was at school, they also gave loads of opportunities. So I was a mentor for a GCSE student, and I just helped her through her GCSE year. She was a complex person, obviously I won't talk about her on here because that's not fair, but I really supported her well, I think, anyway. And like I was about to say I still catch up with her, but I haven't for like a couple of years, but I did for a while, and that was a really good experience to mentor someone younger than me. Something else I did was I used to go to the local primary school as well and listen to the kids read. I mean, that was dead boring, I'm not gonna lie, but it looked good on the personal statement. Because at the time when they offered it, I wasn't sure. I was like, maybe I want to be a primary school teacher. And, that volunteering really showed me that was not for me. I used to just you had to go down there and sit and listen to the kids just read. And obviously the kids can't read properly, so it was kind of boring. But it was a good experience and it looked good on my personal statement. Again, it was just showing commitment and like it showed caringness. Like all of the stuff I did with younger people, I think just showed that I was someone who cared about supporting people through difficult things and like teaching them, which although I wasn't interested in the time in teaching, but it really does apply to midwifery. Like we have a long-term role as a teacher, as like a mentor for students as well. So I was able to really link that well into having leadership skills, compassion, commitment, organisation and confidence, really. So I think, I'm sure in your life you do many, many things and you can link it to midwifery. At the time, I also had a part-time job. I worked at a care home. I wasn't a carer. I worked in the kitchen. But obviously, I got to know all the residents and built up a rapport with them. And it just showed, I was out there trying to do my best, filled my time, getting all these experiences. And it meant I was used to a care environment. So when I went to the hospital, I wasn't too shocked. Like, I knew what a sluice was. I know some people are like, what's a sluice? But that's a really weird thing to think of. But I knew what a sluice was. That probably didn't offer me too much in the way of experience, but it's it's one of those examples. You're used to the environment of working with lots of different professionals too. Another thing I got involved with whilst I was at school was a research project with my biology at A-level. I know one particular university was really impressed by this, and they asked me a lot of questions about it, and they were really interested and thought it was a really cool thing that I was involved with. So if you can get involved with anything like that, I really recommend it. I was able to go up to London to the Wellcome Trust building to present our work with other schools doing similar stuff. I was really winging it. It was the first year our school did it, but like professionals in the field were like asking us questions, and I ended up stepping up for my group and answering the questions, basically waffling, making it up. But I think the teachers were impressed and it showed good leadership and just thinking on my feet as well there, so I was able to link that in the interview experience rather than the personal statement, because I think that experience happened after I'd already done my personal statement. And finally, the last thing I got involved in was school, which obviously I think is the biggest thing for me, is that I was actually the head girl of my school when I was in year 13, and it meant I organised like events for the sixth form and just was an ambassador for the school, role model for younger children. I was really shocked when I got it, to be honest, because there was girls who were like more academic than me, or maybe behaved themselves a little bit better throughout school than me, but they still gave it to me. I think it shows like leadership qualities again, and I think I was a little bit more relatable than some of the other girls, which was nice. And yeah, I had a great experience with that, like having a bit of a more close relationship with teachers and speaking to outside parties as well. Like when I was organising our sixth form ball, I had to call up like events places, and they generally thought I was a teacher at most times, but that's a bit of a digression. But yeah, if you can get involved with like your student leadership and mentorship opportunities and volunteer and stuff, just do as much as you can and whack it on your personal statement. I know last week Jess said she didn't really do much, but for me, I had to prove with my extracurriculars that I had potential to be a good midwife, because obviously my grades never really reflected that. So I was doing everything that I could. But then again, I was doing all of that also before I even knew I wanted to be a midwife. I think that's just in my nature. I get FOMO and I want to get involved in everything. But if you're not the type of person who generally likes to get involved with stuff, I'll just recommend stepping out of your comfort zone for a little bit, just so you've got something else to add to your personal statement. But yeah, fasting forward to results day, obviously I said my results at the beginning. I didn't get my results needed for midwifery. The unis were like, nah, I'm really sorry, but you cannot come with those grades. One of the unis offered me to go and do a foundation year, but I wasn't really feeling that, because I don't know, it just seemed like a bit boring really. And one of the other unis, University of Bedfordshire, I had a place for midwifery there, but they said I could come and do like year one of their biomedical science degree and then reapply or stay on the degree, like reapply for midwifery or stay on the degree if I wanted to. So I went and did that because it just sounded like something interesting, something extra to do. It would give me a little bit more, background knowledge in science, and it meant I could move away, have the true uni experience. So I just went for that, and I would not change it for the world. I learnt so much on that course, and it set me up so well to start in midwifery. Like, I wish that was like an option for everyone. Obviously, that is a bit of a random option. I wouldn't recommend banking on that and planning on that's how you're going to get to midwifery, because I think I was only able to transfer the grades because the universities I applied to after doing biomed, I'd already previously applied to midwifery and got places. So when it came to my A-level results day, I had 2 offers from universities to study midwifery, but I didn't make the conditions of those offers. So I just reapplied to those universities again after I'd done the biomedical science, and I again got offers from them. So I just needed to pass the year of biomed in order to get into those universities. But when I was doing biomed, I was studying the subjects of anatomy and physiology, cell biology, lab skills, microbiology, biochemistry and chemistry. So yeah, I really had a really well-rounded science knowledge, and I learned a lot of stuff which I still use today in my midwifery degree, and it put me like a step forward than some of the other girls starting, because especially my anatomy and physiology knowledge, that was already really, really solid because of what I had studied. And the cell biology and the microbiology and the biochemistry, they helped me a lot too. So if you maybe have a biomedical science degree or another sciences degree and you're thinking about transferring to midwifery, go for it, because it's going to help you so much. Like, I'm sure the admissions people would love to have you. It would be a really good thing to do prior to starting the degree, but obviously it's not necessary, and obviously it's going to put you in debt. That's the only thing. I'm in an extra year's worth of uni debt. But it did mean that I got to have a traditional uni experience, which is something I spoke a little bit about with Jess last week. So she lived in halls, and when I was at Bed's uni, I also lived in halls, like the main halls. If you know the Luton campus, I lived in Fitzroy. So if anyone knows about that, you know what it's like. So it was like a party sort of area, and I was involved in the sports. So I was a cheerleader at uni, which was a great experience. And again, something I added onto my personal statement, because anyone who's done cheer knows that there's a lot of commitment involved. Like, you have to show up every week in order to make sure like your stunt team can practice, and you go to competitions, and there's a lot of dedication behind it. Like, it's a difficult thing to do. So that also looked into teamwork. It looked great on my personal statement too. But if you know anything about unis and sport, that means going out every week, with the girls and with your team and going out partying and clubbing and having like a really true uni experience. And I am really glad that I got that, but I'm glad that I came home. So when I was applying to uni again, I just applied to the University of Bedfordshire and my home uni, and I got offers again from both, but I decided to come home because Beds Uni offered me placement, because their placement and uni time is integrated, so you do both at the same time rather than in blocks. And most people lived at their placement area, and they offered me to like work at Wrexham Park in Slough, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I've just got used to living at Luton campus and I've got friends here, and why would I move to Slough and then be far away from everyone? I have to make like new friends again. I'd feel lonely, I wouldn't know the area. So I came home, and I'm really glad I did, because obviously I had my friends from home already still here, some of them, and then I also made new friends, and I was able to live at home, and I saved a lot of money, because big thanks to my parents, they don't make me pay rent or anything. So yeah, I was saving them money, I was saving me money, and I just felt more comfortable here, more supported. One of the biggest pros I'd say of living at home is if your parents cook for you. My mum has always cooked for me. She's even made my lunches a couple times before. I probably shouldn't out myself on the internet like this, being a baby still basically, but there's nothing better than coming home from a long day and having your dinner and a cup of tea ready for you, and just being able to chat with your mum and your dad about sort of everything that's happened in the day. And they're just really supportive of everything. And I was also able to have a part-time job throughout my studies. I live near a golf course, so I was able to just get really flexible part-time hours, like literally one shift a week down the golf club behind the bar. And like my dad plays golf there, my uncle plays golf there, and I know a lot of the people that play there, so I was really well supported, and people were really encouraging of my midwifery degree there. So I had a really good experience. I was able to make money and save money because I was at home, and that's sort of also the reason why I've been able to make YouTube videos and have an Instagram account. So I think I've covered enough about like my uni experience really regarding how I got to uni. So I'm going to give myself a little minute to talk about why I started Student Midwife Notes. So I started Student Midwife Notes prior to starting uni, in the summer between finishing Beds Uni and starting midwifery uni. I started it almost as a blog and an Instagram account. I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. I was just, recording my journey. And the reason I started it was because when I was preparing to go to uni, I was looking for the lived experience of people who were doing it already, and I couldn't find any. So I just thought, I'll just do it myself and see what happens. And now there's so many other student midwife accounts, and we can all chat, and prospective students are able to come and see what it's really, really like as a student midwife so easily. So I'm really happy and proud that I started my account, and I'm looking forward to like what it develops into in the future. And I would just give the advice to anyone who's starting uni is to look at the accounts, see if midwifery seems like it really is what you want to do, and then go for it and apply, and don't have fear. Don't take no for an answer. If you really feel like midwifery is what you want to do, just go for it. Be fearless, be bold, take ownership of your own decisions and prove people wrong. And, my final question to everyone coming on this podcast is always going to be, what are your career goals and where do you see yourself in the future as a midwife? So I'll answer that myself. I don't really know where I see myself, but it excites me because I know I'm going to have a really long career. I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. But service improvement and research is something really close to my heart. I just have always been the type of person who likes to make things better, to change things, to work on issues, and just always improve stuff. My whole life I've been a problem solver. So I want to get involved in that as much as I can as a real qualified midwife. I want to travel around, have lots of experiences, and just do my best and enjoy my job and let it guide me in the future. I can't wait to see what the future of midwifery looks like. I hope it's positive. I hope we make steps towards improvements rather than, stepping backwards into a medical model. I feel positive about the future in that regard. I think we can make things better for women, and I think, I want to be a driver for returning back to physiology and trust in physiology. It's always been a passion of mine, as I mentioned before, the sciences, anatomy and physiology, and I think bringing that back into our midwifery education and, in practice in the hospitals, trust in physiology. So yeah, that's where I hope my career goes. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast. I'm sorry if it's a bit disjointed. I feel like it's hard to talk by myself with no one to bounce off as. I've got like such a dry mouth because I've just been talking at my phone for so long. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you've got questions for me, you know, you can DM me or comment wherever you're listening to this. But again, I'd ask you please to subscribe to this or wherever you're listening to it, whatever your favourite podcasting app or place where you listen to it is. If it's on YouTube, again, subscribe and follow me on Instagram to have regular updates. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Again, leave questions and I'll speak to you in the next one. Bye.